Hello, hello. Happy Sunday. We are at our week 8 skill builder. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to kind of pop on. I'm going to get my iPad set up so I can see comments. And then we are going to get rocking and rolling with our stuffies this week. All right, where am I? My iPad wants to cooperate with me. Here we go. All right, so I'm up here. We are doing our stuffies this week. It is that Happy Snowman stuffy. I've got my materials cut. I've got my stabilizer in. So with stuffies, with stabilizer, you want to make sure that your stabilizer is cut away or wash or tear away or wash away rather, because you want to make sure that you can get all the stabilizer out from behind the material. That way it stretches as a stuffy should. I'm going to be using Minky for mine. You can use Minky, fleece, anything that's got a little bit of a stretch to it. If you don't want it to have stretch, it doesn't have to have stretch. It's just not going to be kind of your typical stuffy plushy thing. So I am using Minky for mine. So when you have like a fleece or a Minky, it's going to have a direction of stretch. So you want the stretch of the fabric to go horizontal across your design. That way when it gets stuffed, it's not distorted, it's not wonky. You want that stretch to go side to side rather than up and down. So make sure that you check that when you're going. Just give it a stretch. Make sure that the direction of your stretch is going to be across your design horizontal. Also with Minky, you're going to have a direction that the Minky is going to want to lay. So I like to have that kind of going up and down as well. So again, stretch side to side. And I want that nap, see how it kind of goes up this way. I want it to be kind of like, I think of like actual like animal fur, how it kind of goes up this way. When you pet it, it kind of goes down. Is that a good enough description? So I like to kind of have it so it's down, like it would be if it was like a stuffed teddy bear with the direction of the faux fur. But that's my preference. It doesn't have to be that way, but you really do want to make sure that your stretch is across the design with this. So, hi Nancy, hi Regina. Again, I hate that my comments half the time only show up on my phone, which is inconvenient because half of it is blocked, which is so annoying. Hi Mona. So I keep having to go back and forth and check it. So I have in my stabilizer, I'm using Badge Master for mine. It's the heavy duty wash or water soluble wash away stabilizer. I use it for patches as well. I like it for this. I like wash away stabilizer. I don't want to pick it all out at the end because that's annoying and no one wants to do that. But again, you can use tear away if you don't have this. The only thing with tear away you got to watch out for is when we get to kind of some heavy stitching areas, you might want to double up with that just to make sure that you don't kind of poke through and perforate through your stabilizer. So that's why I choose to use this. If you've got some poly mesh wash away, you can even use that too. But you do want to make sure that you're not using cutaway for these, just so you can get it out of your design easily at the end. So that is pretty much with it. Oh, hi Kelly. How'd your show go? I really wish my comments would load half the time. I keep having to like refresh it and it's so annoying. Technology hates me, I swear. Nancy, no, you don't need to have a 9x14. This comes in all sizes from 4x4 up to 9x14. I am doing the 9x14 because I like big stuffies, but you could do whatever size your hoop is. So the way my stuffies are set up is typically you choose the mini, which is a 4x4. It's a keychain size, or you choose the regular stuffy, which is 5x7 up through 9x14. For the skill builder, I included all sizes, including the mini. So that way you can pick and choose your size with that. So like with that, also want to make sure that if you're using Minky or fleece, that you have a topper that you can put on. I'm going to be using this plasticky kind of topper that I'll put on over my Minky before we start stitching out the design portion, the face. Just it helps keep the stitches from kind of getting lost in the nap of the fabric. So it's got like a nap to it, right, where it kind of lifts up and goes down. If you don't put a topper on this kind of fabric, basically what's going to happen is it'll kind of get obscured in the nap of the fabric and your stitches won't stand out as crisply. So I like to use a topper on mine too. I've got the plastic topper. You could use even the kind of the mesh topper as well that washes away. That's fine. Typically I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to have to wash it at the very end. So I stick with the plasticky stuff, but that's just my preference. Either one will work totally fine. All right, so with that said, our first step of a stuffy is going to be our placement stitches directly on our stabilizer. So I'm going to use black for my placement stitches so you can hopefully see it on camera. Ordinarily I would just, it's going to get pulled away in the end anyways, but I typically would just do the color of my fabric. And I actually turned my speed up a little bit tonight. I might regret it. Just because I'm doing the big stuffy, and otherwise it's like an hour-long stitch out for the 9x14. And nobody wants to sit here for an hour and watch the stitch out. So I turned it up, and I hope I don't regret it. We'll find out. All right, so our placement is down. So our next step is going to be to place our front fabric, our front material down. Again, I want that stretch side to side, and I want the direction of that nap to kind of be running up and down. So again, my stretch goes this way. That's the way I'm putting it. And I am now going to switch to white for my tack down here. And again, the last step of the stuffies, the final pass, will stitch a little bit smaller. So it's not really a big deal if you're not matching your thread to your fabric. Oops, sorry, hit the phone there. But I just do it anyways, just in case. Also, if you're using something that's kind of a thicker material, if you're using like a really like a hefty faux fur, you're gonna wanna pump up your presser foot height. Especially if you're doing stuffies that you're attaching ears and things to, when you're getting several layers in there, it really helps to pump up your presser foot just so you're not dragging your material across. So if you have that option in your machine, watch it. With this, just this one layer here, I should be fine keeping it kind of at the factory set presser foot height. Also with this too, I kind of just make sure with my hands that I'm not pulling the fabric, that's not getting like distorted by the presser foot, it's not getting puckered or bubbled up. I'm not really like forcing it, I'm just kind of making sure it's not getting shifted as it kind of stitches in here. I don't have to keep my finger right in line of stitching, but just so I don't get puckers, things like that. So now I've got this down. And it's a double pass, so once I get the first pass around, I can typically let it go the second pass around without having to hold it in place. We're good. Hi, Nancy. And it was funny, I was reading this book, and I could not put this book down today. And I was reading on my Kindle, and I had like 30 minutes left of this book at 7:30. And it was killing me to stop reading this book. But luckily I was able to kind of, as I was setting this up, finish this book. Oh, it was so good. It was perfect for Halloween. All right, so the next step is going to be start the face. But at this point in time, we want to make sure that we place our topper. So I have mine cut. You have two options here. One is you can pin this all around out of your line of stitching to keep your topper in place. Or what I like to do is I like to back this up to the very first step, that placement step, and use that to help secure my stabilizer on top. What I will say with this is it's very slippery, so it tends to kind of shift around. So with this, you really are gonna have to make sure that you're watching it and you're kind of clearing that path here. See how it wants to kind of pucker here? I'm kind of just holding it just so I don't get huge puckers as I'm going here. And you can get a little bit of pucker, it's not a huge deal, but you don't want to have it where it's like folding itself over and your machine is having to stitch over, stitch over a ton of like folds or thick, heavy puckers in your topper here. And I'm a little off right there, that's okay. I just really want to make sure that's in my stitching area here, that way it's going to help support those stitches so it doesn't get lost in the minky here. All right, so now I can go back to where I was which is the eyes and the mouth. So let me go ahead and put the black thread back in my machine. And I find just kind of going back and doing that first step to get this topper down is much easier than trying to pin everything in place. But you can do whatever you're comfortable with. That's just kind of my little trick to get it done faster. Like I said, don't worry about small little puckers like you see here with the topper. You want to worry about if you have it and it's like this, where your machine, your pressure foot's really going to get kind of tangled in it. So and this is the longest step of the design, 16-minute stitch out. I have my machine turned up a little bit. I think I jacked it up to like 700 stitches per minute. Normally I do 400, so I think with our last slide I was brave and did 1,000 for part of it, but it was too fast for me. But I think 700 I can get behind, so we can speed through this a little bit. I know, Kelly, I'm being brave. Michelle would tell me to crank it up to like 3,000 stitches per minute. Faster than my machine even goes. She's a speed demon. All right, so one eye done. And if you're stitching the smaller size of this, it's going to be a much quicker stitch out for you. Again, I'm doing the largest size because I like the bigger stuffies. But even like the 4x4, if you're doing that one, it's going to be so fast. I'm just being extra because I want to do the big size. And then next week we have bags, and our last week is sleep masks. So I have the bag design done, but I haven't zipped it or anything yet. So I think I showed you guys last week the bag design, so I need to get that up and ready this week, but the design's good to go. I just have to get it sorted and put into your accounts. Hi, Bobby. That's okay. You made it. We're all here. I'm doing the largest size, so you got time to catch up if you're stitching with us. That's okay, Shelby. You can stitch it out your own free time later. Thanks for hanging out with us. Ready to see. That's so, Kelly, do you hear that? That's so fast. I'm a chicken. Even on my industrial sewing machine, I don't really get to sew much these days, but the motor I have on it goes to something crazy like 3,000 or 4,000 stitches a minute, which is insanity. Like, I don't know who would ever sew that fast. Certainly not me. I would sew halfway at my arms before I was able to catch that I was sewing into my arm. So I have that cranked down to like granny speed on that too. So I like to sew. This is our week 8 project for the Skill Builder Bobby. I am not bumping it up any faster. This is fast enough, Kelly. I can't do it. I think I have my industrial sewing machine set to like the motor. I think I have it cranked down to like max like 400 stitches per minute because that's fast as I'm going to be sewing. I don't need to sew through my entire arm. Who is sewing that fast? And I know I can still control it with a presser foot, but I'm just afraid I'm going to jump and I'll have my arm stitched to my elbow. See, 650 I think is still reasonable. I'm not gonna get up to my eyeballs with the needle if I'm sewing at 650. One little piece of coal done almost. See, it doesn't sound happy about stitching this fast. Natalie, I believe you. I can't do it. I'm chicken. This came with the machine. It's not a magnetic hoop. It's just the 9x14 that came with the hoop. I have a magnetic hoop that I got with this machine too. It's a 7x12, which is like the most odd size to include for a magnetic hoop. Because I would want the magnetic hoop more for like garments and things like that to get hooped easier, but I'm not putting a sweatshirt in a 7x12 hoop and hooping it. That's crazy pants. So I don't really use it. This is just the standard kind of 9x14 brother hoop. And honestly, the magnets on the magnetic hoop, it's a brother magnetic hoop that I have. I'm staring on the wall right now. It's got like 8 magnets you have to take off to put on, which is like, I don't want to sit there and take off 8 magnets just to hoop something. So it kind of sits there. It came with the machine. I don't know what to do with it. Every now and again I use it, but it's a rarity. So this is the most boring part. So I was working on a bee this week that my daughter took that I completely jacked up. Like, I forgot basic sewing construction when I was putting this stuffy together, and it was a disaster. I'm gonna have to redo the whole thing. I put it together and I was like, oh yeah, you can't put seams together like this. It was amateur hour this week when I was trying to figure that out. So I would show you the terrible test up. It's really cute, but the wings don't work. Yeah, so I've got the Sew Tights, Kimberly, that I use, and I love using those. I never pin anything. I don't even use pins when I sew. Generally, I use either clips or magnets because I've stabbed myself way too many times. Ginger, I've done that too. Don't feel bad. Kimberly, have you tried the So Tight magnets as opposed to just like the other magnets? Because I do like those. I haven't tried other magnets, but I stab myself when I use pins. All right, almost halfway done with the mouth. Like I said, this will be the longest time here. And the orange will take us a minute too. But I'm still not bumping the speed up any higher, Kelly. I can't do it. They have them on Amazon too, Kimberly. They're kind of pricey for what they are. I think like a 5-pack is something like 30 bucks, which is not pretty expensive to me for like 5 magnets. Are you kidding? But they're really worth it, and you don't need a bigger pack. Like, I never use more than like 4, even on a big design, trying to put it in place. And I like them for sewing bags if you make bags, for putting like zipper pockets and holding those in place as I'm sewing. Oh, Nancy, I've done that so many times. And I get so mad at myself every time. And some zippers are easier to open on the back side if you forget to open them, and some just refuse to open. I've rage thrown many bags before when I've made mistakes like that. Both in the hoop bags and sewing bags, many times. If we don't make mistakes, we're not really doing anything, right? Because it's just part of the process. And I'll make the same mistake 75 times too. I'll make it again. Maybe not next week, but I'll make it again. If I started hanging my mistakes up on the wall, they would be covered. I promise you that. I've made so many mistakes in a regular course of a week. It's a lot. Like was it this week? I think last week. I think it was this week. I was stitching something out and didn't secure the backing to it, and it totally folded over, and I raged through that design too on the floor because I was so mad about it. And yeah, I know I could have cut it out and redid it and all that, but I'd rather redo the whole design at that point than deal with trying to pick it out. I'm not one to pick out embroidery stitches. It just feels like it's daunting to me. It's a hassle, so I just start over. All right, last part of the mouth, and then we'll go on to the nose. Kimberly, I have several bags and things that have been somewhere with mistakes that I meant to fix over the years, but I've never, not once, not one time, I think, have I ever gone back and fixed any of those mistakes. Not once. I always tell myself I'm going to, but it never ever happens. Same reason I have like 4 sweaters knitted upstairs that have no sleeves, because I can't be bothered to knit the sleeves on them. I got bored. So there they are. They'll sit there. Maybe I'll get around to them. Maybe I'll eventually finish sleeves. But no. To date, I think I've knit maybe 7 or 8 sweaters, and maybe of those 7 or 8, only 3 or 4 to completion with the sleeves done. At least my size. I know her face makes me happy, Kelly. She's very happy. And I used to be a sewing tester for a lot of different bag designers, like years and years ago, like probably a decade ago. And I'm still good friends with a lot of them to this day. Even though I don't really get to sew much more and I don't test bag designs, but I probably have a box of maybe 20 bags that I sewed for tests that I didn't finish the lining. And I never went back to finish the lining. They're just sitting there in a bin with no lining for future me. And I think some have been sitting there for probably 10 years with no lining or a half finished lining. Yeah, so Krista, I ordered some name badge magnets on Amazon thinking they were the same thing as the sew tights, and they were not. But I'm sure there are plenty that actually are like good alternatives to it. I bought the sew tights and gave up. Like, these work, so I didn't try any other ones besides the name badge ones. And those are fine for like a couple layers of material, but they're not nearly as strong if you're doing something thicker like vinyl. But again, those are just the name badge magnets. All right, so we are on to the nose. I actually pulled my thread ahead of time tonight. It's easy because it's only 4 colors, but sorry, and I keep hitting the phone when I change threads. All right, this is 9 minutes for this on 400 speed. Ugh. All right. Nine minutes of watching it stitch the nose. And we just have 2 weeks left, which is crazy that we've kind of gone through this whole skill builder already to be on week 8. It went by really fast this time, it seems. And I'm glad that, knock on wood, like everything in my basement, getting the repairs done it's taken forever. It's been so delayed. So, yeah, time for a story. I don't have good stories though. But with the basement stuff, since everything is just taking so long, it's taking 10 times longer than I thought. There's been no real disruptions other than that the 1 week I think I had to disrupt it when we had all the equipment down here drying it out. But other than that, we've been pretty good. So knock on wood that continues for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll be good. And if you're stitching the mini out with us tonight, there is an additional step for the mini, which I'm not going to do on this, but I'll walk you through it. It's the last step before we get to, it's the second to last step. So steps, I don't, how many steps do we have? 6 on this. You'll probably have 8 then on the mini, if I'm mathing right. So your last 2 steps before the very last step will be a little bit different, and you'll need something to attach it to a clip. So if you're using the minis, I don't know where my clips are because they're packed in a box somewhere. But I like plastic clips that I use, or you could just use a key fob, or you can use these little guys, which I like to. You could use fold over elastic for the minis to attach it to this. You could use polycord. Just anything to really attach it to, it's totally fine. Make sure it's something a little more substantial than like a ribbon that's going to kind of fray and fall apart on. You know, that over time it'll break down. So polycord's good. Fold over elastic is good. But it's like a 30-second step, and I'll show you when we get there on how to do that too. that is the fun thing, at least when you do move stuff around and reorganize, you find all kind of stuff you forgot about, which I do every time. And in fact, most of my stuff is in boxes still. I actually broke down, was it this week? Early this week I broke down, or was it last week? I don't, my weeks are blurring together at this point. Because I couldn't find Minky, I couldn't find fabric, and so I broke down and went and got like kind of a shelf from Target just to put up for now, so I can get at least my Minky out, and some of my fabric out, so I'm not digging in boxes to try and find everything. So yeah, I know I'll take it down when we do the flooring, but at least I can function down here a little better. But other stuff in boxes, it'll be fun when I put it away, because I just found a box of yarn that I forgot I had too. Actually, Gus found it because it has cardboard. He likes to eat cardboard like a goat, and he dug it out somewhere and ate the cardboard of this box of yarn because he was a jerk. I take it back. I did find some bags actually that I had sewn or people had gifted to me over the years. I did find those kind of hidden in another box that I forgot about. So excited to find those because I like to switch my bags out every so often, and I think I had stashed these away so like Gus couldn't get to them and they were safe, but then I kind of forgot about them because I have so many bags. So I that was exciting. And what's super annoying is when we get over to the table, when we stuff this, I'll show you, is I purchased this like giant box of polyfill probably 2 years ago. I don't know if it's 10 pounds, 5 pounds, I don't know, it's a huge box. And I really underestimated how much polyfill was going to be in a box of this weight. It is so much polyfill. And luckily someone in the group, like it was the size of my daughter at the time when I bought it, had given me the advice to not open the box all the way and just cut a hole, like kind of a porthole in it. That way you could just pull it out because it explodes the second that you get it out of the box because it's so like vacuum sealed in there. And so I followed that advice and it was great. And I had my little porthole. Well, Gus, my English bulldog that thinks he is a goat and wants to eat cardboard, was left unattended down here and ate the side of the box, and now it is like literally just, it's oozing out everywhere, and it's making me crazy because I don't have a better solution for it. I was so mad at him because it was so nice and neat and contained in that box until Gus discovered that it was cardboard. I don't know. He makes me crazy. He's a good dog, but I don't know what his obsession with cardboard is. It's really annoying. Cardboard and leather. Like, only like loose leather. So, I have leather furniture that he doesn't bother. Leather shoes he doesn't bother. But like, if I have like a hide of leather that I bought for sewing with, like I have to hide and put it way up out of his reach because he will find it and he will chew on it. It's maddening. And this dog has all of 2 brain cells. I love him. He's so sweet, but he may have 2 brain cells. And he has been to the vet more than once, the emergency vet, and more than that, the regular vet, for eating things he shouldn't, like a whole bag of avocados or a corn cob. And costs lots of money to get all that out so that he wouldn't have to have surgery. But he's too dumb to learn. So it is what it is. My cat likes to eat, well, one of my cats likes to chew on plastic, and she doesn't eat it, but it makes me crazy. She just like gnaws on it, and I have to hide my like plastic, the topper that I have here. I had to hide that because she kept trying to chew on it. It's just one of them. And she is the one that my basement is just, it's still in total disarray with packets and boxes. I did get some semblance of order done this week. Like, I don't know how, I thought it was going to be done faster and I shouldn't unpack things, but since it's dragging on, insurance, all that, so I put stuff against the walls, got it organized, and she is still down here. Like, she thinks it's like a playground because there's boxes she can jump in and out of and around and go under. Maybe I need to make a giant floor pillow so I can move on to another box, a smaller box this time, because it is an obscene amount of polyfill. I have been making Stuffies with the same box for 2 years, and many Stuffies, and it has not even made a dent in the box. Or I guess I could get some like duct tape and some other cardboard and try and like fashion it back into a box shape so it's not, it's just everywhere and it's maddening. Thank you, Gus. All right, now we're on to our cheeks. And then we'll just be ready to add the backing and we're good to go. See if I can thread this time without knocking into the phone. It's questionable. Oh, nope, so can't do it. Almost there, didn't make it. Although to be fair, my house is not very big, so if I made a giant floor pillow, I don't know where to put it. Because the downstairs, the whole basement is divided into like my studio space and my husband's office, and then 3 bedrooms, dining room, a living room, and a kitchen. We don't have much space. It's an old house, so it's on the smaller side, but we make it work. Nancy, I thought about that, but I'm honestly afraid if I like try to do anything else to it, like it's gonna like eat me. Like it's gonna explode and I'm going to be like one with the fluff because I feel like there's more in there, like holding on. It's like loaded like a spring coil. I'm terrified. I'm honestly terrified. It's almost like got a life of its own at this point. I'll show you when I move the phone over. I will show you the disaster that it is under my cutting table of this fluff. It's frightening. I'm using pink, so crossing our fingers, my machine decides to behave itself with the pink thread. Yeah, Krista, this is Badge Master. You could use Tearaway. You can use Wash Away. I just like that. I like Badge Master because I know it's going to handle the dent stitches and easily kind of rip clean, or I can throw it in the washer and it'll wash out. See, and Kelly, if you're still here, like the machine is slowing itself down. It doesn't like stitching as fast as I've got it set to. You could use this, it's only the face, so you won't have an outline or anything, but you could, I mean, you could adjust the steps and put this on like a t-shirt or a shirt. It would just kind of be a free-floating face though, without the outline. I don't know, maybe he'd be cute. Maybe I should do like an applique design for him, for like a freestanding, because he'd be cute on a towel too. I haven't done one yet, but I could do one, because he would be super cute. So I have him as an ornament, and I have him as a mug rug and the stuffy, but I didn't do a freestanding, but he'd be super cute. Is it a pre-made shirt, Krista, or is it one that they're giving you to stitch on? Like, is it already like you have to get it perfect, or can you just throw it in a blank shirt? If it's a blank shirt, no stress. You got this. Like, just put, if it's like a t-shirt or like a knit material, just put some poly mesh on the back and make sure that you use cutaway, and you got it. I'm more nervous when I have to stitch on something that is like someone gives me, and I don't do it often, but it has to be on something that's like pre-made, that they want this attitude, and it's my husband usually. Yeah, so that makes me that would make me nervous too, but you can do it. I mean, I would try, if you can get yourself a shirt of similar material. Is it like an athletic knit? Because that is, the athletic knit I find is so much harder to stitch on because you stabilize it so much more. So my son's uniform shirts for his school, I get so mad when I buy them because they're like $60 for a polo, for an embroidered polo. And I know I've already digitized the logo for, he had golf towels he asked me to make one year. So I've already digitized their logo, but I buy them from the school shop. And I get so mad when I pay $60 for a polo, and they have athletic ones that they have stabilized so poorly that the design is puckering, or it like folds in on itself because it's stabilized so badly, and I paid $60 for this, and I get so mad because they are harder to stabilize, but you just gotta make sure that you use extra cutaway, use your poly mesh. If it's an athletic knit, you can do it. I've done it successfully on a couple shirts of my husband's. He asked me to add like quarter zips he has that are athletic knit. You just have to use like double the stabilizer that you think you need, or that you would use for like a sweatshirt or like regular t-shirt weight material. So much stabilizer. Hi, Kiara. Like he had me, so he was doing a podcast for a long time with a sports group here in Cincinnati, and he asked me to add their logo to a quarter zip, like athletic zip up that he had, and they sent me, they had the design digitized, and they sent me what they had done digitized, and I stitched it out, and it was awful. The quality was terrible. It was obviously done by like an auto digitizer. So I ended up having to scrap it, and I redigitized the whole logo for them, and got it on his quarter zip, and it still, I mean, it held up, it looked fine, but it was a little nerve-wracking because I was like, listen, if I ruin this, yeah, so that sounds like it's athletic knit. So what I would do, Krista, is I would absolutely do like 2 layers of poly mesh and probably 2 layers of cutaway. If you can, go to like the thrift store for now, and buy like a similar weight garment cheap, and do a couple test stitch outs of the design on that with different stabilizers to see. That way you're not worrying about possibly ruining that actual garment. Yeah, if it's like drapey and slinky, it sounds like the athletic, like that athletic knit. And it's a little bit harder, but it's doable. I've done it. It's all about the stabilizer. And then one thing I'll say too, if you're adding a number, make sure that you really tested out the fonts on your machine before you add it, because I was doing some testing. So I had some bobbit issues on my machine, my other machine last week, and I was doing just some test stitches to see like if I was fixing it, what was going on with it, and I just used the fonts on the machine. And some of them, like the actual fonts, like weren't actually stitching that great in general. Like the stitches were way too long. Like they were so long for what I would have done if I designed that font, because it's going to get stuck or snagged. So just make sure that you tested all that out too, and you're comfortable with the size that it is and how that font number stitches out before you put it on anything that you're worried about like being forever. All right, so if you are doing the mini, we're up to the steps where you are going to add your top there. So if you are doing the mini, and I did not cut out any elastic because I'm not really doing this, but we're gonna pretend. All right, bear with me here. Where is, oh Lord. I'm never prepared for anything, I swear. All right, so I'm gonna cut a small piece off here just so I can see. All right, so if I were doing the mini, I have either my polycord or my elastic here, and you're gonna have a step first. It's a small one at the top. You're gonna run that, and it's gonna be your placement for your tab, basically. So run that so you see where to place this. The next thing I want you to do, depending on if you're using the hardware that I was using or a keychain that you can slip this on later, you can go ahead and just add that later. If not, add it now, but be very careful that you don't add that to where the hardware is going to get hit with your needle anyway. But you've got your line stitched up here. Again, this is just the mini size. Lay your tab, whatever you're going to do. I've just cut a piece of fold over elastic, just a couple inches or so. It does not need to be long. And you're going to place that over the line placement there, and then you're going to run it again to tack this down. You don't need a ton sticking out from your design, maybe about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And then run that to tack that down. And that is your tab to add your hardware to. All right, but we are doing the big one, so we are not doing that. So at this point in time, we need to add our backing. So again, I have my piece cut already. I want my stretch like we did the first one. I want to go across horizontal on the fabric. I'm checking the direction of my nap here. It's kind of going down. So I'm going to place that here. I'm going to switch my thread color to something that matches the fabric. So I'm going to go back to white on mine. And much like when we were adding the topper, we are going to keep an eye on this to make sure that it does not get stuck. It does not get shifted. If you need to, this would be the point that you would raise your presser foot height. I think we're going to be okay, but I may stop it and lift it up depending on how we're doing here. Sometimes we're good, sometimes we're not. It depends on how thick your material is. Oh, I don't like how thick that is. So I am going to raise it just a little bit. All right, so again, I'm going over. Make sure that also your extra here that you haven't hasn't gotten pulled under this. You don't want any surprises. Make sure it's all nice and flat. Lay this over. Make sure everything is nice and covered. And then we're going to run this last step. All right, and again, I'm just gonna kind of keep my hands close by to make sure this isn't getting drug, it's not getting lifted. So fast, Kelly. Yeah, honestly, Krista, if you're doing it for somebody else and they're really wanting a pre-made thing, DTF's gonna be probably easier. That's just me. Especially on the athletic knit, it's kind of a pain. What I will say is if you are stitching the mini, the opening hole is going to be a little bit off to the side, where on this one, it's going to be right at the top, the other sizes. Again, I'm just watching this to make sure it doesn't get lifted up. It's not dragging my fabric around. All right. So now we need to move over to my cutting table, and I will show you this box of fluff that's taken over my life. Don't judge the space. I know I need to vacuum. It's just a mess. It is what it is. But I'm pull you out. Hopefully I'm not going to disconnect anybody. Look away if you get seasick. We're going to go over. There is the explosion of fluff that Gus decided to eat. Do you see that? It's a nightmare. All right. Don't judge me. Okay. We're in place. Sweet. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this out of my hoop. I'm here. Bring my iPad over. Let's see. Where did? Okay. So, Regina, it depends on your machine. So not all machines will let you lift the presser foot, but mine is where basically I have a brother. So the top of my screen, it's like a little page. I click that and it's one of the options that you can scroll through. It depends on your machine whether or not. I know, like, I think the PE 800, is that there 5x7 now for brother? I don't think you can do it on there. And if you can't, just make sure that you're keeping that. You're really watching that you're not getting this. You don't want the foot to grab it and then drag it and then do this. That's bad. So you got to watch it. Slow your machine down and just be really careful if you cannot raise your pressure foot. So here's back my Badge Master here. And the nice thing about Badge Master is it lifts away, so I don't have to wash it. Just save a step for me. And then just rip it out of here. Same thing if you're using tearaway. Just rip that out. You don't want that to, because you do want this to have a little stretch, so you don't want that to be in the way to where your stuffy can't stretch. All right. So from here, oops, I know, look, some Badge Master there. And what we saw popping was just by placement stitch on the stabilizer, so we're good. I'm not worried about that. All right, so we are going to trim this out. So stay about 1/4 inch or so away from your stitches. I'm actually going to start here because when I cut my cutting hole area, my turning hole area, I don't want to actually cut close to this. I'm going to leave this kind of uncut, but I'm going to start here just so I know. And then I'm going to turn it over because I can't see the white on the white. And we're going to trim. Make sure you don't cut your stitches. And sometimes with the Minky, it shifts a little when you're cutting. So if you have to take a second pass around to kind of clean up some spots, that's fine too. Oops. And hopefully I didn't just clip my stitches there because I got pretty close. All right, so the bulk there is done. All right, no, I'm good, I didn't. All right, so where our turning hole is, I'd like to leave a little bit there. Don't cut it too close. It'll be easier to tuck under when we turn it. And then I got a couple of spots here. I'm gonna get a little closer on. Again, it kind of shifts sometimes. The layers will separate a little bit. So you might need to go back in and kind of clean those up. If you're on a curve, I like to kind of go on this side so you can see your stitches. I like to snip into the curve a little bit. I don't want to cut my stitches, but I want to make sure that I can get nice and close to that line of stitches just to give that fabric somewhere to go so you don't get puckers. So do that on kind of those sharper curves there where it kind of goes in. Just a few snips. Make sure I got all the sides here. Snip, snip. And hopefully I didn't just, it's so hard white on white. That's my fault. Snip, snip. All right. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and reach in and I'm going to pull this guy through. go ahead and stick your hand in there. Or if it's too tight for your hand, just get like a knitting needle. Use the back of it, like a blunt object, to get that. So you push all those edges out. Pull off my topper. If you're using a mesh, this would be the point in time. If you're using a mesh topper, you'll throw it in the wash before you stuff it. But I can rip this away. All right, so we are here. And I have my gobs and gobs of stuffing coming out everywhere. There's way more than I need, but again, what I like to do with the stuffing, and I don't know that this helps anything, but in my head it does, to make it extra fluffy, I kind of pull it apart, and I do piece a little bit by little bit when I stuff. So I like to kind of pull it apart. I feel like it just makes it fluffier. I know they sell like super soft, super fluffy stuffing, but this works for me. And I'm gonna go about a handful at a time. I don't want to, because I want to be able to kind of control where it's going. So kind of a handful at a time. Get it in there. Again, I don't know that this does anything. In my head, I feel like it does, but I could be making it up. I find if you do too much at one time, it kind of lends itself to being a little lumpy. So that's why I like to do it kind of handful by handful, and then I can kind of sort when it goes. I think I bought the stuffing box on Amazon because it was like 50% off, and it was a giant box for pretty cheap. So I was like, oh, let's get this. And I really underestimated how much stuffing is, like 20 pounds, whatever it is, 10 pound, 20 pound box. It's ginormous. I'll have enough stuffing for the rest of my life, even for 20 years of Stuffies at this point. Okay, so at this point, I can start to feel where I have areas I need to kind of add some more to, like up here. If you get areas where you're feeling kind of lumpy there, add your small bits to that. I'm gonna start adding it up near my top here. And how much you add is totally kind of personal preference. Maybe you want them super stuffed. Maybe you like them a little less stuffed, so a little bit softer. It is up to you. Yeah, there's way more in those boxes than you think. All right, so I am about to the point that I want to start closing this. So we're gonna see here. All right, so we kept that long piece here on a turning hole. It makes it easier to kind of tuck down in there so that we can get this turned. And then it kind of folds in. So here's where the seam was, if you can see on camera. By keeping that long, it kind of naturally wants to fold itself in. I'm gonna take my top here, check my stuffing, and I like to use some clips. So you can hand sew this closed using a ladder stitch. I don't do that. I'm lazy, I don't do that. But I do want to give it a clip before I close it all the way, because I want to check my stuffing situation. I like to kind of move it around, make sure it's kind of evenly distributed. Don't be afraid to like kind of roughhouse it a little bit. And then feel if there's any areas in there that you feel like you want to add more in that particular spot. But I'm feeling pretty good. I like how this is. I am going to add kind of up here. It feels a little empty, so I'm going to just take a little bit up near the top here. And I'm just going to kind of shove it in there. There we go. Feel like we're good, and the rest will kind of work its way out. All right, so I like to use fabric tack to close my holes. All right, so here we are. Check your turning hole. It looks like I've got this piece up a little higher, so I'm gonna roll this down a little bit. All right, so here is where we are. Roll this up a little bit. All right, I like to keep this clipped as I'm working. And what I like to do is get my fabric tack And I like to work at a small section at a time so I can kind of keep it neat and keep it from oozing out. All right, so from here, don't be afraid to stick that in there. You don't want to get right here near the top, because what's going to happen is it's going to ooze out on you. So kind of go in there about 1/4 inch and just drape it along kind of the inside, and then squeeze your fabric together and then pull that out. That way any excess is stuck inside your fabric and not dripping out of your turning hole there. All right, so we got that. I'm going to go on to the middle section. Same thing. This stuff's so thick. All right, I'm going down about 1/4 inch or so, just to make sure that I'm not gonna be oozing out. Squeeze my fabric, pull it out. That way I don't get any kind of crusties or oozing out there. And then do my last one. Same thing. Go in about 1/4 inch or so. Get that all in there. Squeeze. And that's it. So from here, I'm gonna let this dry. Usually it dries in about an hour or so. It doesn't even need to dry that long. If you really weren't in a hurry, this stuff is set with heat as well. You wanted to take an iron and try and set it. Just test in your fabric first to make sure it's gonna hold up to the iron. But that's it. And then once I take these off, I can kind of squeeze my filling out a little bit more, and kind of that where it looks like it's loose up here and there's not much stuffing, I can push that up in there. Like I said, don't be afraid to manhandle these and move that around the way that you want it to be. And see, our stretch is across this way, so it's not creating and distorting a shape. The shape would look a lot different if we ran our stretch up and down instead of horizontal. So that's it. So hopefully that was helpful. Next week we have our bags. I don't think I missed any questions. But any questions here, I'll pop them in and we'll get ready for bags next week. I hope everyone has a fantastic week, and I'll be back to work tomorrow in the group. I've got a bunch of new ones coming out tomorrow. I know we're doing a sale, but I do have some new ones to close out our October bundle as well. So I'll get those up, and I'll make sure that I get our bag up for next week as well. Planning on Sunday as usual for our stitch along. And I hope everyone has a fab week, and I will see you around at the group. All right, bye everyone.